forward. Do y'all see my Funding Focus Boston screen? Yep, beautiful.
I do. Okay. So ready to get started? All right, excellent. Hey everyone, and thank you for joining us for PowerFlex's webinar today, Funding Focus Boston. My name is Chris Vespoli. I'm a digital content producer here at PowerFlex, and I will be your host for today. I am joined by our illustrious speakers, Inaara Muhammad, Emma Shinall, Janelle Lindstrom, and George Martinez. Now, this webinar will be recorded for PowerFlex's proprietary use, and we'll make it available to participants afterwards. The presentation will last about 30 minutes, and we're going to leave about 15 minutes at the end for your questions. The question function has been enabled for participants, so go ahead and submit those questions throughout the presentation. And Inaara will be sure to address those later. So without further delay, I'm going to hand it over to Inaara.
Thank you, Chris. Hi, everyone. My name is Inaara Muhammad, and I lead the incentives team here at PowerFlex. I'm based out of Sacramento, California. We are very excited for those of y'all who have joined and are interested to adopt EV charging solutions at your companies and at your organizations this Thursday afternoon over on the East Coast. And we feel very excited to introduce y'all to funding opportunities that will ultimately reduce your costs to make EV charging available. So I will start by going through a little bit about what PowerFlex does, and then cover some of the programs that we want to highlight in Boston for available funding. For those of y'all who have projects located around the Boston area, but not directly in Boston, we'll also cover some opportunities that you can still take advantage of. We'll also have some time for questions at the end, and if we run out of time, you're always welcome to reach out to PowerFlex at sales@powerflex.com to learn more. So I want to start by telling y'all a little bit more about PowerFlex, particularly what we offer to help you reach your carbon goals. PowerFlex is a clean technology solutions company, making the transformation to carbon-free electrification and transportation possible through EV charging, solar, storage, and an adaptive intelligent energy management system called PowerFlex X. We help everyone from property development, sustainability, and operations teams to fleet managers, IT professionals, and drivers turn their sites into green energy hubs. So how do we do this? PowerFlex has a suite of solutions that include commercial solar, energy storage, microgrids, and EV charging. PowerFlex also has an intelligent energy management software platform called PowerFlex X that helps our customers monitor and optimize their on-site energy systems. PowerFlex is your all-in-one provider from everything from site validations, development, construction, all the way through operations and maintenance. And the best part is when you work with PowerFlex, you have one point of contact for all of your clean tech solutions and products. PowerFlex manages the project from conducting site visits to recommending appropriate solutions to actually developing and engineering the right fit for your site. We then manage the entire construction process. And once a site is live, we provide various asset management and maintenance services. We're here as your partner to make sure that the project fits your needs, and all you have to do is press the on button. So I'd like to highlight a few of the types of customers that we've been fortunate to deliver intelligent clean energy solutions to. As most of y'all are located on the East Coast, I'm sure you're very familiar with DHL and the Newark Airport. For those who are unfamiliar with PowerFlex's history, PowerFlex is majority owned by EDF Renewables. The EDF Group holds over 70 years of experience in energy and over 35 years of experience in renewable energy. When we focus specifically on EV charging, which y'all are here today to learn about, PowerFlex is the #1 provider of large-scale EV charging solutions, and we are the 4th largest public level 2 charging station network in the US. We are proud to have installed over 15,000 chargers nationwide and counting. So now let's dive into some of the incentive programs in the Boston area that have made our shared mission more affordable. As we go through each highlighted program, the incentive coordinator who works very closely with program administrators will talk about the program's incentive offerings, eligibility, and what the application process looks like. Please note that programs we'll be discussing may often cover different scopes, ranging from make-ready programs to hardware-only programs. All of the funding programs, even when stacked with others, will fund different percentages of your project's eligible costs. In no scenario can you exceed 100% of eligible costs, because making a profit off of the program is not allowed. And as part of the services we offer at PowerFlex, our incentive coordinators will work with the program administrators to manage each of the incentive applications. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Emma to introduce our first program.
Awesome. Thanks, Inaara. Hi, everyone. My name's Emma Shinall. I am one of the incentive experts here at PowerFlex, and I oversee any and all participation in the Massachusetts Eversource EV program. So this is a really incredible program with lots of funding opportunities available. They are accepting applications on a rolling basis currently. This program is open to both level 2 and DC fast charger projects. It just depends on the site type that is applying. So we'll dive into that a little more closely in just a second. For level 2 projects, they do require installation of at least 2 ports. And then for DC fast charger projects, they're requiring installation of at least 1 port. And then overall for all projects, there's going to be a maximum of 10 ports that they will fund. PowerFlex has several different chargers eligible for this program. And just in case you're unfamiliar, over here on the right-hand side, you'll see an image. All of the green spots are the Eversource territory. Alrighty, next slide, please. Alrighty, so as one of the general requirements for this program, anyone who would like to apply needs to be a commercial account holder with Eversource. And this program is open to 3 separate site types. You can be a public facility or workplace. So what this kind of looks like, or how Eversource defines this, as a site with practical public access. So they define that as no less than 12 hours a day, 7 days a week of those chargers being publicly accessible at the site. This program's eligible for MUDs. So the requirements there, the site needs to be non-deeded, unassigned spaces, or the spaces where the chargers are being installed. I mean, they need to be non-deeded, unassigned spaces unless 20% or more of all parking spaces at the site are getting chargers installed. And then there's also an offering for fleets. So any kind of public or private fleet is eligible. The fleets do need to either operate more than 50% of the time, or they need to be registered to an address within an EJC, which is an environmental justice community. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. And the program does consider public transit and government-owned fleets as public fleets. Alrighty, now let's dive into the actual funding. So this is just a quick funding overview. We're going to dive in to the specific funding amounts offered for each site type that I just broke down, because they vary by that. But one of the amazing things about this program is this is not just an infrastructure program. This is not just a charger rebate program. It offers kind of all of the above. So Eversource offers charging rebates, networking rebates, and rebates for both the customer and utility side infrastructure costs to help prepare your site to actually install the chargers. As I mentioned, these rebate amounts are going to vary by your property type, and then also your property's environmental justice community status, which you'll now see that map over here on the right-hand side. If you have any questions as we dive into the funding, where your site might fall in the EJC status, or where it might fall under property type, all of the above, please feel free to reach out to us and we can kind of help work through that and define your site as far as Eversource standards go. And one quick thing I want to point out, another great benefit of this program is it is stackable with other programs, one specifically called Mass EVIP, which Janelle is going to get into in just a second. But we do want to point out that, just kind of like Inaara mentioned at the beginning, when you do stack Eversource and Mass EVIP or other programs, Mass EVIP specifically, they are going to subtract whatever you're awarded from one from the other. So just keep that in mind. Again, you can't make a profit off of these, but we can definitely get you as close as possible to that 100% cost coverage. Alrighty, next slide. So specific funding for public and workplace site types. So this offering does include all 4 of those rebate types that I mentioned on the last slide, the chargers, the networking, and both infrastructure sides. And you'll kind of see that broken out on the chart on the right-hand side. But just to summarize this quickly, this program offering for these site types, you can do level 2 or DCFC projects. And some of these, depending on your EJC status, you can get up to that 100% of cost coverage. So just to put it in perspective a little bit, let's say you were installing a level 2 project and you were installing all 10 ports, that maximum port count that Eversource will allow you, and you have that income EJC status, you could receive up to $243,000 plus 100% of those utility side costs covered. So that 243,000 includes the rebate for the chargers themselves, networking rebates, and customer side infrastructure rebate. And then of course, as you move down in the EJ status, there's income, other, and then non-EJC. You're going to see that cost percentage coverage go down a bit, and those per port rebate amounts go down a bit. And then just to do another example for a DCFC project. So let's say you were installing 4 ports, 4 DCFC ports, and you're within any kind of EJC, you could be looking at receiving $360,000 plus 100% of utility side costs covered. I'm just using a 4-port example because that's something, kind of a project size we see commonly with DCFCs, but you still are eligible to install up to 10 DCFC ports if that is what you're interested in. Alrighty, next slide. All right, now let's talk about funding for MUDs. This is another offering that offers all 4 of those different rebate types. Currently, Eversource does not offer any kind of DC fast charging rebate for MUD site types though. So a quick example, the funding amounts are very similar for MUDs to public and workplaces. So I'll just do another quick example here. If you were doing a level 2 project, installing all 10 ports that you can get funded with Eversource, and you're in that highest EJC status of income, you could receive up to $243,000 plus all of your utility side infrastructure costs covered. And as mentioned before, that kind of moves down based on status and port count. So please reach out if you kind of have a project in mind and want to see what your EJC status is, what your different port count options would be, and what that funding might look like. Alrighty, and then last funding slide for the fleet offering. So the biggest difference between the last 2 and the fleet offering is they do not offer a networking rebate for fleet projects. So here you'll only see the charger rebates and then the customer and utility side infrastructure rebates. Additionally, they used to offer a DCFC rebate program for fleets, but that has currently closed as all the funding allocated to that specific offering has been exhausted. So they're currently only funding level 2 projects. And if you are a private fleet, you're only going to be eligible for the infrastructure rebates. So you're not going to have that level 2 rebate offering either. And all of that's kind of broken out on the side here in the funding chart. But like I did with the other slides, I'll kind of do a quick example. If you're a public fleet installing a level 2 project and you're installing that 10 port maximum and your site is located within that income EJC, you'd be looking at $222,000 in incentive funding plus 100% of those utility side infrastructure costs covered. So overall, a lot of funding available. This is, having 4 separate rebates that are stackable for one individual project. Really altogether, a lot of these cover every single cost that could be incurred with a project. So just extremely valuable and a lot of opportunity here. Alrighty, now we'll dive into what the process looks like to actually apply for this program. So to prepare the application, PowerFlex is going to meet with you and prepare a design that best fits your site and your site's needs, come up with the right charger count, etc. And once all of that preliminary information is kind of set up, we will prepare and submit the application to Massachusetts Eversource on your behalf. Then we'll wait around 30 to 60 days to hear back from the program with a conditional incentive award. That just means that they have approved the application, they approved the project, and we can move forward with the actual construction. So if there's any utility and customer side work that Eversource is going to be doing, they will move in and complete that infrastructure work. We will stay in close communication with them so that we are ready as soon as their work is done to move in and complete the actual installation. And then all along the way, we will also be collecting all the final documentation that's required for the incentive to be released after construction is complete. So we'll continue to take care of incentive management throughout this entire process. And then once the construction is actually complete, we'll submit all that final documentation that we collected along the way. We will be in communication with the program, make sure all the final documentation checks out. If they have any clarifying questions, we're there to address those. And then once the final documentation is approved, the incentive will be paid out to the rebate recipient. And then PowerFlex is actually going to continue to support in this project or the application for the next 5 years by reporting data to the Eversource program on your behalf. So to continue to meet those requirements for the program. So like I said, this program's currently accepting applications on a rolling basis, a lot of funding opportunity here. So please reach out to us if you have a project that you think might be a good fit. Alrighty, now I will pass it over to Janelle.
Hi everyone, my name is Janelle Lindstrom. I am also one of the incentive coordinators on our team at PowerFlex based in San Diego. And I help to coordinate the Massachusetts Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, aka Mass EVIP. So let's just jump into the overview. This is a rolling grant program administered by the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. And the program offers roughly $37 million in total funding available. Mass EVIP is split up into 4 different offerings. This includes public access charging, workplace and fleet, multi-unit dwelling and educational campus, and DCFC projects. I'll dive deeper into the eligibility requirements for each offering on the next slide. So I'll go in that in a moment. Oh, sorry, go backwards. Sorry. So applications are currently open and processed on a rolling basis until budget's reached. However, the DCFC program has been closed as of early 2022. We've received no current plans for reopening, but if you are interested in that, feel free to reach out to our team. We'll keep you updated on any future program announcements. So across all offerings, all applicants must complete project construction within 6 months if it's an existing location, and by 24 months if it's a new construction site. And lastly, all of PowerFlex's equipment is eligible to install through the program. Next slide, please. Okay, so going into each program offering, public access charging requires each site to have 24/7 access availability. However, if your location does have restrictions, then access must be granted no less than 12 hours a day, 7 days per week. For workplace and fleets, they require projects to have at least 15 employees and allow access to all EV drivers on site. For multi-unit dwelling and educational campus, similar rules. MUDs must have 5 or more units, and educational campuses must have 15 or more students on site and also allow access to all EV drivers on the site. So the DCFC program also had similar rules to the public access program, just requiring 24/7 access availability or access for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week if the site had restrictions. So pretty straightforward. Next slide. And now let's jump into the funding. So funding through Mass EVIP covers all installation costs and charging station equipment. So this includes the actual charging stations and any related hardware, plus all the labor to install those. As Emma mentioned, we are able to stack funding with the utility incentive programs in Massachusetts. So this includes National Grid, Eversource, Unitil. However, only charging equipment will be covered through Mass EVIP if you are stacking. So installation will not be covered by Mass EVIP if you are stacking with those utility programs. So for both scenarios, funding is capped at $50,000 per site with no entity cap. If you look to the right, this is a very simplified chart of eligible costs for each scenario. I just wanted to quickly summarize the two options. But if you'd like to see a full list of eligible costs for this program, feel free to reach out to our team. Can definitely provide that full list for you. The main difference I wanted to point out is if you are stacking with the utility program, only the charging station hardware will be covered through Massive VIP and installation will not be covered. But as a whole, networking and software fees, planning and permitting, maintenance and warranties are not covered costs in the program. So that's just another thing to consider. Next slide, please. So all that being said, let's dive into the specific funding for each offering. So for public access and charging, sites can receive up to 100% of eligible costs covered at government-owned property and 80% at all other locations. For workplace, fleet, and multi-unit dwelling educational campus sites, those can all receive up to 60% of eligible costs covered. And then lastly, for DCFCs, they had also offered up to 100% eligible costs covered at government-owned property and 80% at all other locations. Next slide, please. So now let's go into the customer timeline. So first, our engineering team will work to complete the site design and pricing. During this time, if you do choose to apply for funding through your utility as well, we'll help you apply for that as well. Once everything's lined up from there, we'll help to prepare and submit the Massive VIP application on your behalf. The application will then be under review with the program. If there are any changes or clarifications needed, they give us 2 months to submit any revisions, so plenty of time. But this is something our team will handle and coordinate on your behalf as well. So when all looks good, the program will issue our approval letter and contract documents. And once everything's executed, PowerFlex will work with you to schedule construction at a convenient time that works best for you, and we'll begin installation. So once the project's complete, our team will collect and submit the final documents needed for closeout. This includes invoices and pictures of the installed chargers. And if you choose to apply for utility incentive as well, we will also work with them at this time to help submit and close out those final documents as well. So once all that's approved, the program will issue payment. We can expect to receive that within 45 days. And then after the chargers are turned on, the program does ask us to collect usage data from the charging stations and provide to them upon the request for 3 full consecutive years. PowerFlex will continue to support for those 3 years and take care of any data and reporting requests on your behalf. We'll make sure all program requirements post-installation are met as well. So yeah, that wraps up the program. It's pretty straightforward. If you are interested, please reach out to our team at sales@PowerFlex, and we can definitely work with you to answer any questions and help you apply.
Thanks, Janelle. We are now going to dive in to some programs for folks that may have projects located in Massachusetts, but right outside of Boston. I'll hand it right back over to Janelle.
Me again. Okay, so I also coordinate the Massachusetts EV Make Ready program for National Grid. So this program runs very similar to the Eversource program that Emma discussed earlier in the presentation. The EV Make Ready program provides incentives to cover electrical infrastructure and charger rebates for applicants in National Grid territory. The program is split up into 3 different offerings. This includes public workplace, multi-unit dwellings, and fleets, which I'll also dive in later in the presentation as well for those eligibility requirements. Applications are taken on a rolling basis until the budget is reached. And from my last conversation with the program, there's still plenty of funding available to take advantage of, which is great. And also all PowerFlex equipment is eligible as well for this program. So let's dive into the eligibility requirements for each offering. So for projects applying to public and workplace, public sites must have 24/7 availability or availability for 12 hours a day, 7 days a week if the site has access restrictions. Multi-unit dwelling sites must have at least 5 residential units. The charging stations do not need to be publicly accessible, but they must be open and available for all residents of the property to use. If parking spaces are assigned to specific residents or drivers, then the chargers must be installed at 20% or more of all the parking spaces at the property. And for fleets, public or private fleets are eligible to apply as well. Now for funding, so again, this works very, very similar to Emma's program with Eversource. National Grid will cover up to 100% of electrical infrastructure costs for all offerings. This includes customer side and utility side costs. And if you look at the graphic to the right, this just shows what can be covered under the program. Different project components may be covered. It just really depends on your eligibility, which will help you to determine. So additional charger rebates are offered, but this is only offered to publicly accessible and multi-unit dwelling sites. So this means private workplaces and private fleet sites, those are ineligible to receive charger rebates, but they can still receive funding for electrical infrastructure. So on top of that, National Grid also offers a networking rebate for L2 projects. But again, this is only offered for public access sites and multi-unit dwellings. And that networking rebate pays out a maximum of $480 per port for a 4-year networking contract. So lots of funding available to go around. Next slide, please. So going ahead, projects may qualify for additional funding if they are located in an environmental justice community or if they fall under low income criteria. And the map to the right there just reflects all those environmental justice communities and also areas that are considered low income. If you're unsure if your site meets this criteria, our team will work with you to determine eligibility, make sure you're receiving the maximum amount of funding that you can receive. And then similar to Eversource, all applicants are required to apply for any additional funding sources they're eligible for, the big one being Massey VIP, which we just discussed earlier. When we do stack the two programs, National Grid will deduct whatever funding received by Massey VIP and subtract that from their overall award. Again, to reiterate, we will work with you to apply for these other programs and help coordinate both applications on your behalf. So I also wanted to quickly go over the co-located storage adder with the National Grid program. So National Grid offers additional funding for capacity constrained projects that are publicly accessible, where energy storage will be co-located with public chargers. Funding is capped at $500,000 per site or $750 per kilowatt hour, whichever is the lesser amount. And projects will be prioritized if they are in an environmental justice community or on an EV alternative fuel corridor. I do want to highlight the application deadline is quickly approaching and will be coming to a close on June 30th next month. So this adder is just a great opportunity for any projects looking to add battery storage with their chargers. If you are interested in learning more, again, feel free to reach out to our team and we can work to get more details to you. And now let's go into the customer timeline. Again, very similar timeline to previous programs. So first, our engineering team will work to complete the site design and pricing. During this time, you'll also apply for funding through Massey VIP if your project's eligible. Once everything's lined up and ready to go, PowerFlex will prepare and submit the National Grid application on your behalf. Once the application is submitted and all looks good, National Grid will issue our approval package that contains the incentive award. Once that approval package is signed, PowerFlex will schedule construction and begin installation. So once the project is complete, our team will collect and submit all the final documents needed for closeout. Again, this includes invoices, pictures of the installed chargers, and also complete the closeout process for Massey VIP at the same time, if that's been applied for. Once final documents have all been approved and chargers are energized and operational, National Grid will issue the payment, which we can expect to receive within 90 days. And then similar to the other programs as well, National Grid does ask us to provide usage data from the charging stations quarterly for 4 years after the chargers are activated. And so PowerFlex will continue to support you for 4 years and take care of any data reporting requests on your behalf and make sure all program requirements post-installation are met there as well. So that about wraps it up. This is an amazing program that covers many different project components, which can be hard to find nowadays with incentive programs. There's plenty of funding available. So if you are interested, please reach out to our team at sales@powerflex.com. We can work with you to answer any questions and help you apply.
Thanks, Janelle. We didn't have a chance to cover all of the funding opportunities available because there's so many in the Massachusetts area, but I do want to quickly go over a couple more. If you are interested in any of these, like Janelle said, please reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com and we'll see if your project is eligible and how we can maximize available funding. The Accelerating Clean Transportation for All grant is administered by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center. This is a great grant. It provides funding for charters in priority populations, up to $1.5 million, up to 100% of your project costs. So great program to participate in. Each of the utilities, Hudson Light and Power, Westfield Gas and Electric, all have limited money available, but do have money available to fund chargers in these territories. And then lastly, the Reading Municipal Light Department, if you have projects that are up to 15 chargers, they'll fund $1,500 per charger. You can always install more. So if you have opportunities, please feel free to reach out to us. This brings us to the end of our webinar for Funding Focus Boston today. We have just a little bit of time left over for Q&A. So if we don't get to answering your question today, please reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com. Or if you have a question specific to your site, if you want us to evaluate funding and pricing for your site, please reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com as well. So one of the questions today is, can I apply for funding on my own, or does PowerFlex have to apply for me? I can start, and then Emma and Janelle, if there's anything that y'all want to add, we can trade off. I will say that for most of these programs, you as the site host, you as the organization owner are eligible to apply by yourself. However, as you saw when Emma and Janelle described all the different nuances of the program, all the different application requirements, eligibility requirements, stacking requirements, we do recommend that you work directly with us. At the same time, we are also working directly with the program administrators. And because we've done this a couple of times, we know of some of the eligibility nuances and labor requirements, and how to maximize your funding. So you are eligible to apply on your own. Feel free to do it. But we do recommend that you work directly with us since we provide this service. Emma and Janelle, anything else to add?
No, I think that covers it pretty well. And I think too, to emphasize that, you know, we've participated in several programs over the years, and we have relationships with the program administrators at a lot of these programs. So, and that's always of benefit, you know, to help if project unexpected delays come up, things like that, you can be rest assured that we'll be able to continue to manage those things with the program and work through any obstacles that you inevitably face in any kind of installation project. So
Agreed.
Awesome. I see a lot of questions relating to specific projects. Please reach out to us at sales@powerflex.com and we can help you navigate those numbers. This wraps up our session today. Thank you to everyone who came. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.